Hi everyone, well, and we have another Given to live chat session. Today we've got the amazing artist Matt Leunig with us, and before I invite Matt in himself to have a chat, I will say a little bit about Given to Live for those of you who might not know about us. Excuse me. And for those of you who've already heard it, I apologize. Given to Live is a live music organization that helps vulnerable and excluded people go and see live music. Amongst many reasons I started this is I realized that going out just to see a gig for so many of us we just take for granted, and that's not a criticism. I did it myself. It's just simply being able to walk out the door is actually for most people as easy as ABC, but for a lot of other people it's not. And the way we do it is to make sure that our guest is treated as a VIP, for want of a better way of putting it, for their day. They have, we provide the tickets, the hotel stay, their transport's covered. We always take them to the merch stand. We have individual artists make individual show posters for them. As an organization, we're also very emphatic, passionate about mental health, and so we have also taken people of different ages. It's not just youngsters who have been going through some very tough mental health issues and tough times that they need help. And we have, I don't like the word slogan, but our slogan is because you matter, and that's why and how we try and make people feel, whatever they are going through, have been going through, that for whatever is going on for them in their lives at that time, they are the most important person for that day, regardless of who's on the stage that they wanted to see, because it's always about what they want to see. As far as Given to Live is concerned, our guests are always the VIP. I see that Matt's joined us, so if Matt does the I want to have a chat with you thing request, we can get this ball rolling, as they say. So I will just wait for Mr. Matt himself. There it is. Go live with Matt Leunig. Waiting for the connection. Pregnant pause as the internet does its thing, and there he is. Hey Matt, how are you?
Hey Tom, how you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. And first of all, obviously, the first thing I want to do is say thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it. Second thing I'm got to do is say, actually, I've got a bone to pick with you.
Uh-oh.
Going through your stuff, it was so hard to pick what to put in a collage, and my fiance ever helps me because I am useless with that stuff. And I'm like, you have such a huge body of work, and I'm looking at, that's awesome, let's have that one. No, look, that you just made it really tough for me. So yeah, it was tough. But that's not why we're chatting, to tell you how tough it was for me to pick, posters to put in the collage as the sort of little bit of PR. It's to chat about you as an artist and the work you do. And I guess let's start at the beginning. Did you want to be a show poster artist? Did that just happen, or was it like, oh, that's what one day that's what I want to do?
I always kind of drew. I always was into comic books and animation and stuff like that. And for a long time, I thought I was going to be a cartoonist or a comic book artist. Growing up, I was like the Spider-Man, X-Men, and eventually you find out about like the indie stuff and the kind of comics from the 60s and R. Crumb and all that. And for a while, kind of in college and actually my early 20s, I was doing some kind of self-published. But they just take too long. Doing a comic takes too long, and I don't know. I just kind of kept hitting dead with my own interest with it. But all along, I kind of also had this interest in the old 60s Fillmore posters. And kind of directly after school, I went to school in Virginia. I moved out to San Francisco. And I was there. I was living like Haight-Ashbury, all these stuff.
Right.
And just kind of like started doing posters for local bands. And eventually got something with the Fillmore, like Fillmore, which was nice on my bucket list. But yeah, I never, and then that kind of snowballed, and I put comics behind me, focused on posters, and somehow made a career out of it.
Can you remember the first poster you did? Show poster?
Well, I mean, so actually started when I first moved out here. I was doing, like really crappy digital print. I try to hide, and like if anybody has any copies, just get rid of them, because I feel like the first poster that I officially say I did was my first screen print, and that was for Ween.
Yeah.
In 2006, they played the show in San Francisco, and then once I kind of got doing the screen printed stuff, that's when I those are what I call my like official posters.
And I'm just going back a little in the conversation, and I can't remember who it was talking about comic books, saying pretty much what you said. They take forever to do. To do a story. I mean, like everyone, well, not everyone, but most people, I looked at comics, and read comics when I was a kid and stuff, and I'm like, oh, that's just, you don't think, I don't think, oh, that must have taken ages. It's like, okay, well, there's a little bit this and that, but actually it's a very long process, I gather.
It is. For a while too, I was looking at doing animation, and like interned like an animation studio, and it was like, I realized I'm going to be doing a million little drawings, and this is going to drive me crazy. I'd rather put all my focus and all my energy into like one cool drawing. So posters were perfect. Plus, it makes music, which was another one of my passions. And like, I could never play music. I played the trumpet when I was in second grade.
Right.
But this was my, I always had friends in bands, and this was my way of like being a part of that scene the way I could. So just kind of perfectly.
And you say Ween was your first one.
Yeah.
And you say, and the Fillmore is like, it's obviously, I'm English, but it's kind of one of those legendary venues. What was the stuff that so I mean, I'm 52. I've heard of that since I was young, so and so played the Fillmore. I'm like, so, and then after a few more times, it's like, oh my God, the Fillmore, is iconic venue. What were you doing for them?
So part of the why the Fillmore was so important too is it's a huge staple in the poster scene. So like the Fillmore was like a big venue in San Francisco, but back in the day, they really created and pushed the whole kind of concert poster scene. They, for shows, they would give out free posters. They gave out free apples, free posters. And that's kind of a thing that they keep going in different incarnations over the years. Even today, usually for like sold out shows, you can go to Apple's and they'll have they'll hand, um, you know,
So
and as
are you, I mean, I'm kind of like, I'm listening to you and I'm saying, did you say they're giving away apples?
yeah, I mean, I hope they still do. That was
Like the fruit?
yeah, yeah, like a basket of red apples at the end of the show.
Oh, wow.
I mean, you don't get one, but you know.
Yeah. That's just so different, and that's kind of fun and cool. Yeah. So, how long did you work with them?
It was off and on
Or
for a few years, so I think I did maybe 15 Fillmore posters. Anywhere from I did like Ani Franco, Sonic Youth, Fleet Foxes, and for me, it was a big part was I go to the shows, and I have a very specific memory leaving a show where they handed out posters and like sitting on the bus on the way home surrounded by people who were just holding and talking and staring at this poster that like 5 days before I was sitting at the long table doing a theater drawing. And I was just like, oh shit, pretty cool.
But yeah, I imagine that's been amazing. Did you ever turn around to people and say, "That was me"?
No, usually like my wife will, if my wife is with me, oh, okay, I know that guy. Or, my mom is around, not very subtle about that stuff.
That's kind of really neat, really neat. And as I said, I looked at it was so hard to pick and choose, because there were some just amazing designs. And there's some, bands that you really specifically worked with, like, over the years. You mentioned Ween, and who have you worked with most?
I kind of got on with Widespread Panic early on in my career, and have like kind of with them, I'd say 10 years, 12 years. I think we talked about earlier or in our previous chat, like a lot of the work I was doing early on were with a lot of like bands, which have a built-in poster up. And they tend to do a lot before. It's changed a bit these days. They were the bands that were pumping out posters. So I do a lot with them, String Cheese Incident. But yeah, it's like a tree branch. You work with a band, and then over time, you develop a good relationship with their net manager. Says, hey, I work with this other band. You want to do them? Or hey, we got a new band now. You want to try and do a poster for them? And you just kind of like branch out, and sometimes you end up working with a band that will be huge, and you have no idea. And so you're like, oh, whatever happened to that guy? But I've been lucky to get a lot of the same band with me again. So.
Yeah, and I mean, I just love that String Cheese Incident name. I mean, it's something totally unfamiliar to me. I see their posters, and it's just kind of one of the craziest band names I've ever heard.
Yeah, definitely.
But they're fun to work with. You're saying?
Yeah, cool. They've been around a long time, so they have a big following, and they have a kind of a aesthetic, kind of a cosmic. They're a bit of a electronic-y bluegrass band, but they have a very spacey aesthetic with flying jellyfish. It's fun. It's a fun band to kind of come up with artwork for. So.
And I'm just kind of a question I ask kind of everyone, and I'm just going to say hi to Dan Mumford, who we had for a chat the other day, and he's done some great stuff. So I saw him, so I said hi. Hi, Dan. Who would you like to work with that you haven't? If I had superpowers, which I don't, and I could go.
Oh man, I definitely, I think every poster artist has their bucket list.
Yeah.
I'd love to do. It's so weird. A lot of the bands that I want to work with are, of my like 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I'd love to do a Pearl Jam poster. I'd love to do a Beck poster. I'd love to do, Sonic Youth back together. hit me up. But yeah, it's tricky. I still try to keep up with, like, music, going new music. Um, but yeah, most of my stuff, like, I don't know. I gotta update my playlist.
Yeah, I'm a huge Pearl Jam fan, as we mentioned earlier. I'd love to see you do one for Pearl Jam. Yeah, no.
Yeah, Fish is another band that has a lot of great. I just, bands that have kind of vast history of posters, and they have amazing artists try to interpret stuff, like, to be a part of that. Um, but at the same time, like, my personal artwork tends to skew. I was always into the trippy psychedelic stuff, so bands that um, skew that way,
Mm.
I could really push my style. I love that.
Yeah, talking about Pearl Jam is like, I know that they have a very varied stable of artists. Dan Mumford, he's done some amazing work for Pearl Jam, and Eddie Vedder himself, and and then there's been some real kind of, and there's all points in between,
Yeah.
and I was wondering, like, how you would describe your style, and you've kind of already half sort of described it,
Well, I think I think a lot of it spawns from my interest in comics. So, like, I have a very line work heavy style. I try to use, like, thick line work. Um, and, like, over time, looking at kind of my posts over the years, like, I've got more comfortable detailing and spending a lot more time on the piece. But bright colors, I use a lot more colors than maybe some other people, maybe some brighter colors. Um, using brighter colors is also more or using more colors is more expensive. So it hasn't always worked out, but I do tend to kind of keep bright just because I love that old 60s psychedelic look. Uh, so if anything, the comic influence is in there in the colors.
As someone mentioned earlier, Fish, and someone there just mentioning that they love your work, which is, good to know. So otherwise, I don't suppose they'd be here. But it's good to let them, know. Do you look back and you just think, man, that was just no? In fact, I know the answer almost for certain is going to be like, no. I know there's not you've never done your perfect poster, have you?
No, there's
No.
elements from elements from old ones that, like, you're like, oh man, I nailed the way I layered the colors on this one. Or there's, like, parts you're like, oh, this character in the back, I dig that dude, I want to bring him back. But, like, the perfect poster, I don't think is ever be created for me. You're always striving for the next one, So hopefully, I won't create the perfect poster. Hopefully, there'll always be a next one.
Well, maybe you can do both.
Yeah, I guess.
Create the perfect one, and have more to do that are perfect.
Making the next perfect poster.
Yeah, it's like, and there was a lot of Grateful Dead that you've done as well.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of part of the luck of being in the Bay Area and San Francisco and living out there. Is I've been able to kind of work with a lot of the Grateful Dead guys uh, in their own private projects. I've done, when they were called Further, and now they're called Dead and Company. I did, some stuff for the Jerry Garcia estate, and that's always been cool because I grew up really into Dead. I had an older sister that, a big Deadhead, and would kind of feed me cassette tapes and, got to listen to this one and this one. So those have been really cool projects. Again, looking back at high school, Matt, being like, one day you're going to be working with the Grateful Dead, Ween, you're going to be doing that. Like, it's insane. So I'm very, very lucky.
Yeah, and it's like, again, from being over here, it's like, the Deadhead, the scene, it's like something that never really arrived here,
Yeah. Yeah,
Fish is
yeah,
fish. Fish is kind of the same. Dave Matthews Band is like, you know, it's a once in a blue moon gig, if you excuse the pun. You know, but yet then you hear and talk to people, you know, who and I know someone who was like, you know, a bona fide, you know, deadhead, and she just,
yeah,
you know, and then talks about twirling, and I'm like, what the hell's twirling? And then, you know, I met her at, actually, we spoke about the Oakland show I was at
yeah,
in 13, the Pearl Jam, and, you know, and there she is, and that's where I met her, and she was talking all about it, and then someone had videoed her, because she was on the floor, and they were like, oh, there's this woman, and she was like, yeah, that's me twirling, and I'm like, what's twirling? And she's like, oh, that's a Grateful Dead thing, you know? And I'm like,
yeah.
oh, okay.
Those
Yeah.
are the bands that are constantly touring in the States. You know, those like Dave Matthews. Those are the bands that are just always out. And I imagine they barely make it out across the pond to England and to Europe. You know, England, I bet, has its own kind of hippie, uh, got kind of similar.
Not so much, and not so, and certainly not the sort of the big following crowd.
Yeah,
You know, I know, you know, the Pearl Jam thing, but then they're American, you know. But I mean,
yeah,
I know, and I'm sure it's probably the same. You know, you're talking about Deadheads. Is like, I'm sure when they were going on, name a city in the world, and if the Pearl Jam were playing there tonight, and I was there, I guarantee you, I would know at least one person. You know,
yeah,
anywhere in the world, because they travel. You know, but
yeah,
it's like, I'm not so. I mean, that doesn't mean that there aren't, but I'm not so aware of English bands that have that, you know, real core traveling. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. And we don't, you know, the jam band thing isn't quite so much our thing. You know.
yeah.
Although Dave Matthews did make it over last year, it's with this lockdown, everything merges into sort of, you know, what day of the week it is, what month. But yeah,
And
I
like
think it was.
I could see
Sorry.
correlation. I could see correlation in the electronic scene and where it's the same kind of, I don't hate to use the word vibes, but like the same audience feeling that like the jam band scene would have. Um,
Mm-hmm.
does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's kind of just reminding me of a story from my youth, but that's a whole. It's totally irrelevant. Irrelevant because well, no, may as well. My dad, at this point in his business career, like when, you know, the real Space Invaders before PlayStations and what have you, that was his business. He did provide them to pubs, and, you know, and someone asked, we were asked to do a delivery to someone. I had no idea who it was, you know, and so we just go to this address. This guy bought a pinball machine, and we had to go and deliver it. So I go, and, you know, whoever I was working with, we knock. Da, 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 da. It's up the stairs. I'm like, okay, that makes it easy with the pinball machine, but we'll manage. Don't worry. Shh, out we go. And I had no idea what, you know. And all of a sudden, the drum track from Led Zeppelin's Moby Dick opens up, and I'm like, oh, this will make it a bit more interesting. And then then he starts playing with it, and I'm like, really, what's going on here? And he was a drum and bass guy who actually still, this is 20 something years ago, and then and I, for the life of me, can't remember his name, and he still headlines, you know, drum and bass shows and whatnot, and is a big name. But it was, and that's not my vibe musically at all, but it was fascinating to hear him take this drum beat, and then by the time we'd finished installing this pinball machine and everything, he was happy with it and it was ready to go. It turned into something totally different in the beginning of, you know, his next track. Yeah, it was really, yeah, for someone who's not into that sort of music, it was really a learning experience, you know, because just because I don't necessarily like it, it shows how much goes into making, you know, music, even
Yeah,
though it might not be my kind of music, you know. I've just got, I mean, just because and I'm, again, as like I said at the beginning, I was like bone to pick with you having so much stuff like to choose from. It's like I'm looking at your 9 Inch Nails poster you did. That's a killer poster.
Yeah, that
The purple and the Bill Graham Civic Ed Auditorium in Jesus, even with my glasses, I think it says 2018, I think, or 16.
yeah, it was a different style for me. It's kind of more of
Mm-hmm.
a industrial, a little darker style, so I wanted to try something different, kind of old sci-fi-ish. But yeah, that was a fun one.
Do you have any, in terms of fun ones, do you have any you kind of look back on and go, that was just a lot of fun? I think we got a little technological glitch for a moment. It'll, you're back. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm
Oh,
still here.
oh, yeah, I can. Yeah, it's just some weird cosmic internet connection bit going on. Yeah, I mean, there's so many, but were there any that were kind of like, wow, this was so much fun, that you could kind of like I mean, I can see you can go to town on a lot of yours anyway
I
and
think,
have a lot of
when I can,
fun, but
some of the ones I worked on for Ween, Primus, or something like that, I tried to hide in a lot of little characters or kind of elements that allude to song titles and stuff like that. Um, there was a Primus poster I did for a New Year's show where I think it was like had like 27 references to Primus songs, music videos, artwork, and
really,
like nobody's ever gotten them all. So I like to do as much as it pains me sometimes, and you just kind of end up working forever. Like really detailed, heavy stuff, I enjoy. Um, if you kind of get lost in it. It's a little bit of a working meditation, doing a little cross hatching for a couple hours. I don't know. It's fun.
yeah. I mean, there's a like again, and like someone actually had to tell me they're not called 311, they're 311.
Yeah,
It's like again, again, they just don't. They're not. I could probably ask 100 people here that I know if they've heard of them, and they'd be like,
yeah,
"Who?" You know. But I've got one in front of me here that's like just green and just super awesome, super fantastic. And
like
it's a bright green, and it's so many. There's so many. Looking at your stuff, it's like so many different styles, but yet in the same way, all in the same style, if that makes
yeah.
any sort of sense. Am I making
Well,
sense?
yeah. I mean, I see that. I've heard people say, "Oh, I can recognize your poster like from a mile away," and like I don't. I just because I'm so close to it, but like, would it be the line work or the colors, the way I do a lot of symmetric, um, and I don't know. I sometimes I have to bring up my own website. I've forgotten some of the others I've done. Been a lot of them, but yeah, I've just been so um, engulfed in all of it that like taking a step back, uh, it's funny to see posters that I've forgotten that I've done.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I did a gallery show a couple of years ago in Portland where for the first time we had them all framed up on the wall, like 100 plus posters. And generally I was looking like, oh shit, I forgot about that one. Forgot about that one. I haven't seen that one in years. And also just kind of seeing them all up, you kind of really put a lot into perspective. You're like, wow, I've been kind of doing this for a long time. Like once you're in it, you're a poster artist. Like you sometimes you got to step back and see, oh wow, this has been a long time. This has been a lot of work.
I'm listening to that and I'm just thinking what it must have been like to walk into that, for you and just kind of go, oh my God, I'm all over this wall or walls up.
Well, I'm sure it's like very different because like I'll walk up and I'll be like, that like little piece in the corner. You're like, I screwed up that guy's arm. I could draw that so much better now. Or like, it was a different color. Why is that doing that? You still nitpick. You still nitpick. But yeah, I mean, seeing it all on the wall really was cool. And that, it's pretty rare. Even doing a gallery show, they're not going to put all your stuff up. So, maybe in 10 years I'll have another huge warehouse full of just posters on the wall. But that one time being able to do that, cool.
You say, have you done much with primers?
Off and on, they a lot of times with those bands, it depends on who's running the merch at the time.
Yeah, makes sense.
So the last run I did with them, I did 3 or 4 posters. Voltron was running the posters for their, and I did them years ago, but yeah, kind of off and on. A lot of like, I think the first time I did a poster for them was 2010, and then there was like a good 8-year stretch, 10-year stretch, or yeah, something like that until I did the next one.
I'm still, I mean, what you said about it earlier, I'm still fascinated about 27 different references in one poster. And you haven't come across anyone who spotted them all yet. No.
True fail. And you know what? Failed. I thought somebody.
Would you? How long ago was that one particularly ish?
Let me see. It was a New Year's poster from 2011, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm sorry, I have to look it up.
No. I'm just if I had it here now and showed you, would you be able to pick all 27?
Oh, that's a good question. I wrote it down somewhere. I made a chart where like I graphed out like this is number 26 and that's equal to this. Like this is from this music video. This is from, that if you can do a poster, and especially if you're really into the band, those are the fun gigs where you yourself are really into it and you know their kind of aesthetic or you're familiar with their music catalog. You could kind of do stuff for the fan, inside jokes or inside little hints to stuff. That doesn't always happen. Fun gigs.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about 27 different, that's just fantastic. And I love, because I mean, every band has their super fans, and I just love that no one spotted it,
Yeah.
And as I mentioned in the beginning, we, as we've grown, we've are able to now give everybody we take to a show, we have a local, someone locally create their own show poster, and we don't go as far as 27 things, but there's always something that pertains to them as a person or what they're maybe going through, or it's band X, and I've been chatting with them, and it's like, okay, we're going to get your favorite song in somehow or whatever, but to do 27, that's
I mean, it kind of looked like a Mad magazine where it was just like crammed, may not be the most like aesthetically beautiful, but it was like, if you look and you'll see the background, the little thing in the corner, it's like a Where's Waldo.
Somebody, Matty JWB, is asking, hopefully there's a brief, but if not, do you deep dive into songs, bands, visuals, or your own inspiration?
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely part of it. I would say for concert posters, part of the beauty of it is there tends to be not a lot of artistic direction, as opposed to other fields of design, advertising, obviously, and like that. Sometimes a band will have an aesthetic or a theme for an album or working on. It's rare, but sometimes bands do have rules like no drug references, don't be literal with our band name. But if it's a band that I've never heard of, I'll definitely jump in and do a deep dive of their music, and like even hearing a lyric from a random song on an album I've never heard before trigger an idea.
Yeah.
And for bands I'm not too familiar with, I do like to look at some of the other posters they've done, to see if there is kind of a continuation of a look or a vibe. Yeah, I mean, obviously, music is the biggest key. So if you can pull stuff from that, and then usually I'll send them like 2 or 3 ideas, and they'll go from there and tell me which one.
And you've just given me a thought. Is like you've worked with a number of bands on quite a lot. Have you kind of done sort of almost, for want of a better way of it, a story, you had poster one, and does it ever kind of work in a way that you're thinking, I'm sort of telling a story on the next one and going a little bit further with a different one, or am I just talking absolute rubbish? Which is
no,
possible.
I know what you mean, and I've seen that, and actually that is something that would be really cool to do. I think I've definitely used characters again. Kind of weird creatures have popped up in multiple posters. And when I first started, I had a thing where I was putting a pencil in every poster, like I was hiding a pencil in all my posters, and then after a while, but I actually, there's some artists that are really good, throughout their kind of, was it posterography? I mean, or how many of your posters you've done, you can see, their characters are almost telling a story because they tend to use a lot of them. It gets a little tough. Maybe for like a certain band, you'll see a lot of the same image, like of my characters in all my widespread posters or something like that. But.
And Maddie, you asked the question, and just saying thanks for answering.
Oh, cheers.
Yeah, I know. So it's many years, a lot of psychedelic type bands and what have you. What's most out of what you start, you build your portfolio, as it were. What's the most sort of surprising one you've been it's like, oh, these guys want me to do this type thing?
I would say it had nothing to do with the band. I got asked to do artwork for the San Francisco Opera, and I did all their work for the side of the building, and like for the that was used in buses around the city, on lampposts and stuff like that. And seeing your artwork, 60 feet high, it was crazy. And all that was because it was the Summer of Love anniversary in San Francisco, 2017, I think. And they wanted to give the opera that aesthetic for the plays that they had going on. So they did. There were 3 3 operas, and for each one we made a poster and art, and did it kind of in the '60s psychedelic style, and that was huge. I mean, literally, physically, and like, being able to be like, oh, this is something I don't usually do, and this is representing the city that I live in, and then also, I think I got major brownie points for my wife's family for that one. My wife's family was opera.
I just, yeah, I mean, I can't imagine like walking down the street and you're seeing, like you said, something 60 foot tall of yours, you know, or on the buses. It must have been
Yeah.
totally. Were they
I,
selling
I'm,
posters at the? Was there? Is there even a merch stand
and
at
even
an
now,
opera?
yeah, there's like the little, it's like the store. It's like going into a museum, and they had, you know, every tchotchke. They had the coffee cups with the artwork on it. Plus, I got all of it. I have magnets. I got all that stuff. Um,
Okay, so this guy Matty J Webb, he's says he's an illustrator working in advertising, trying to break into the music scene. He's done some gig posters. I have no idea who for, but having a hard time getting consistent work. Do you have any advice?
um, you know, I would say if there are certain bands that you tend to yourself, you know, kind of really establish that relationship. Um, and like I was saying before, a lot of times your work comes kind of randomly. I still reach out to bands that I like to work with. Not like you hit a point, you just get all the emails and nobody wants to work with you. You still got to do the grunt. So I still reach out. You know, if they're coming in town, just don't be free to send them an email or send the venue an email. I mean, it's a little different now, obviously, music on, but uh, you never know where that work's going to come from. Like I said, that band that you did something for, their manager could represent 5 other bands. And don't be afraid to do work for bands that you never heard of or you're not necessarily your music style. You got to do a lot of that in the beginning.
Mm.
Um, and I would say it's probably a little easier these days. Um, well, it's easier and harder at the same time because there's so many more people doing concert posters than when I started. It's become a boom again. People were doing it in school now. So there is a lot more competition. Uh, but at the same time, I feel like there's more opportunity
Yeah.
because bands are familiar with what it is. Like a lot of the time, outside, especially of when I was trying to do work outside of the San Francisco area, I'd have to explain to bands or managers like what a concert poster was, what I was trying to do, how it would benefit them. Bands weren't making as much money on the road or with record sales, so merch was a big deal, um, and not just T-shirts. These posters, yeah, they cost more to make more on the end, and it becomes this collector thing for your fans, and kind of creates like like a mini culture in your fans. Creating posters and talking to your band, so it's beneficial. But going to that point, um, probably wherever you're located, the music venues are familiar with concert posters, and like the conversation is a little easier. But again, I would say just don't be afraid don't just pigeonhole yourself for a certain aesthetic or band. Just try whatever comes your way.
Mm. And what you said kind of very much towards the beginning of what you just kind of gave to this gentleman as a suggestions, advice is, excuse me, and I won't, it's far from me to mention their name, but I know they're a very long-term established gig artist. But when we were chatting, like we did today, our sort of pre-chat, get to know, and like he still reaches out, and he's been doing it. You say, when did you say, about 2006? If I remember, you said you started ish. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
he's been doing it around the same sort of time, and he will still, there's, logically in my head, it's like people should be, you should be getting email. I know this guy, Matt, right? But actually, he said no. It's like, I will still reach out and reach out and reach out, and yet, I know that this guy is a very established name in the industry.
Well, it's a lot of times it's just reminding them that you're still around,
alive, exist. Yeah.
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 These who are managing merch probably are trying to juggle you know, they get requests from new artists. They are following a bunch of older artists, and sometimes just like an email into their inbox makes their job a lot easier because you're like, hey, I want to do a poster for you. They're like, oh, I remember you. Okay, sure.
And I mean, I'm repeating myself. I'm 52. I went to my first gig when I was 15. I'm from London originally, and it's called the Eventim Apollo or whatever it is now, but to me it's still the Hammersmith Odeon, and it always will be, and it was very close to home. And then the only posters were cheap, almost not quite poster, but that, you know, the step up from paper.
Yeah.
And it was just all the tour dates, and that was it. There was nothing unique to each show, nothing at all. It was just, you know, £3, £5 or whatever, nothing special about it at all.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, now, like, you know, when you go to a different show and you might get a different poster, and oh, okay, I don't fancy this one. Oh God, this is actually, I really want it because that was the best gig of this band I've ever seen. It really makes a difference rather than just the generic, you know, tour poster. You know?
Yeah, it's, you know, I think a lot of the appeal too is the kind of resurgence of screen printing in that art form, where you're not just getting like a poster from the, you know, a Led Zeppelin from the mall back up on the wall. It's artwork. It's the actual nice piece of work.
Yeah.
There is like a little bit more value to it, even just personally. You don't just treat it like a, but it's kind of taken on this life like baseball cards or where you collect the entire Pearl 2011 tour, you know, or like, oh, I'm looking for fall, you know, people have collections that create a whole very market and community. It's cool.
I've just got to say hello to someone I've seen come up, who I know, and I know did some work, not poster work, but work with Pearl Jam for a while, a good few years ago. So hi, Crash, good to see you here. The guy who you were giving the Matty the advice to, I have never. He said he finished up a poster for, I don't even know how to say this, Kruangbin.
Yeah.
Never heard of them.
Oh, they're awesome.
Are they?
Yeah. No, they're cool. Yeah, they're very cool.
What sort of genre would you?
It's like, man.
Clue me in. You got to fill me in. You got to give me some musical education here, Matt.
Most of it is instrumental. It's like I would say like this sounds so weird, like a Thai psychedelic music.
Okay, so right now my brain's trying to process this. Yeah. Okay.
But no, they're good. I saw that guy's note too. He said that he had done a bunch of posters, and unfortunately, the gig got killed because of COVID.
Yeah.
Which unfortunately, I know way too many people that also happened to. It's a weird situation. Nobody really knows how to handle that.
Yeah.
Most of the time, hopefully, our understanding, if you've already paid and printed and stuff like that, they can reimburse or like find alternate uses for the work. But I was very lucky that I had most of my gigs wrapped up right before that. But a lot of people I know, you know, literally spent a couple days printing 300 posters and then got an email saying, "Hey, we're not going to need these," you know.
Oh, I was talking to someone the other day, and they didn't show me because they couldn't. But it's just like, I just printed. They're sitting in the corner here, and I can't use them, and I can't show you because of rights and this, that, and the other, which is totally cool. You know, totally understandable. But you know, they were there, printed, ready to go. The job was, I mean, and you know, I've spoken to, you know, doing this series, quite a few artists, and some it purely is gig work is their thing. And for
Yeah.
them, it's like they've lost 9 months work, maybe less,
Yeah.
perhaps, maybe longer. I mean, no one, going slightly
Yeah.
off in a tangent here, no one seems to know what's going on with anything anyway. If you listen
Yeah.
to a, except for this is bad and it's going to go on for ages, and then it's kind of, well, what happens,
Yeah.
But
It's definitely a weird time. We were chatting earlier before. I feel like there'll be some kind of a pivot or transition into what merch will be for the next couple months. It's not going to be show specific. It's not going to be a specific date, or bands probably will be putting more stuff like online only, whether it be you scoffed at it before, but like puzzles, like just kind of other ways to put their band name on stuff. I like the idea of just art prints or just band prints that are limited, that aren't venue specific, but like a couple different artists just to do their take on a Pearl Jam or Grateful Dead, like that.
yeah, I mean, I've noticed, and I don't know if they do sort of merch to go alongside it, but it's certainly, and I know of some really huge Metallica fans who are loving it, and they have Metallica Mondays, and they screen pro shot show from and I've seen all sorts of different dates, whether I don't know if they're doing sort of merch, as it were, to go alongside it. But I've also seen that Dave Matthews Band are doing drive-in Wednesdays, and they're doing old gigs, but they're also bringing out little bits of merch at the same time to go along with it. So I imagine there's going to be more, like you said, opportunities and ideas like that. Yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's gonna.
I don't know if you caught that,
I
because
think
there was a little internet glitch again.
Jumping around a bit, but yeah, I kind of had the realization. I've been able to kind of post on some work that I had lined up that, but I definitely had the realization like a week or two ago, like music might not be coming. So how how do I pivot or change my approach, or like just reach out to bands and brainstorm that. How do we get this going in a different way? Yeah, it's going to be a weird, next month, and unfortunately, it could hurt some people, like or people who are just kind of starting out their foot into the gig post world, or who are just kind of like starting to get the ball rolling. Really, just kind of put a stop thing, and like there might be as many poster artists comes back.
Yeah, and not, you're talking about poster artists as well. It's like I'm fortunate enough, being based in Bristol, to know a couple of the idols, and one of them's coming on next Wednesday. The bassist Savage. Yeah, it is awesome actually, and he's just such a lovely human being. But again, it's like you're saying about poster artists, like they were kind of, they were growing, and it's like, it's kind of, as a music fan, it's like, damn, I can't see this show, I can't see that show. If you keep it kind of very narrow. But then, because of what Given to Live does, I've been privileged to meet artists, meet bands, go backstage, see what really goes into it. Because, and it's like, whoa, lots of people losing works, bands like, Idols were starting to really grow. And I know, and the last time I saw Dev, and I kind of really happy for him, but miss, you know, I used to see him in, you know, bumping into him a lot in the street. But once they started, you know, touring and that, it was like, and getting bigger. I'd never see the guy. And the last time I saw him was with doctor's surgery, and they were, you know, meant to be going off to Lollapalooza in South America within a week or so, and they just had no idea. And then a couple of days later, everything was gone, you know.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine being a band who's up and coming and getting a real following, and then you're on the Lollapalooza's tour in South America, and then, you know, it's, you know, I'll find out more about that from Dev on Wednesday, but it's
Yeah.
hurting so many people and crew, and, you know, it's like, I'm sure, you know, you're a smallish band, you can't afford to pay your crew not to work, if you know,
Yeah, I think
for a year or whatever it might be.
you guys might have been the one to post that Rolling Stone article about the woman
Yeah,
that worked on the Pearl Jam crew,
yeah,
and
Kerry Keys.
it's the same thing where it's these people that you know, unfortunately, like I was saying, kind of with like people just starting out in the poster world, like it's they get they don't have the work coming in, so they end up taking other kind of jobs, and you know, even when this all gets back, they might not go back to their old touring job. And you people that were a part of the music industry in different facets.
And like, yeah, and you've got a few little sort of, for want of a better way of putting it, forgive the pun, few side gigs in terms of, it's not, you don't just do tour posters, you know.
Yeah, I've kind of had my finger in some like a lot of packaging work. So for fun stuff like
I've
beer,
noticed,
coffee.
I saw a few of those, yeah.
We did some blacklight beer cans, which was cool. But coffee, I love my coffee. Did some cannabis work. That's a new one.
Sorry, I'm going to stop you. You've done some coffee work.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I'm also a big coffee. Who who've you done? Who's the coffee you've done? I'm going to have to look it up. I want to see your design for their packaging. Just because
So
I'm
I've worked with two different coffee companies. One of them is called Jittery Joe's,
right.
and they are based. So I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, and Jittery Joe's is in a town in Athens, Georgia, which is also where the band Widespread Panic is from.
Okay.
So one of the cool things that this coffee company does is they create these tins, like old coffee tins, and the artwork is on that, and they team up with a lot of bands and kind of local businesses, and they have like a really weird, a lot of like interesting kind of collaborations. So they've done two coffee projects with Widespread. So we did a kind of a psychedelic can, uh, and then the other coffee company I work with is called Youngstown Coffee Company, and we've done maybe three or so different bags, and those are fun because they let me kind of experiment and get all trippy. So
I mean, I've been on internet, Instagram, get an hour, and they give you a 2 minute warning, which is frustrating because 2 minutes is such a short time. If they gave a 5 minute warning, so we got like 90 seconds. I've got to ask you, totally going, there's nothing to do with music at all. Jittery Joe's is like, is it because it's really strong? It gives you the jitters straight away.
yeah, some of them are. Some of them are definitely. That's my. I drink way too much coffee.
Okay, yeah, so do I. So do I. Yeah, yeah. So I'll look those up. That's been fun. I just want to. I mean, is there anything you want to quickly sort of put out there before? Because we've got about a minute to go. You know, and also
You know,
your website for anyone who's been watching.
my website is scrapedknee.com. And then my name, Matt Leunig, is my Instagram handle and stuff like that. And, you know, with the music kind of dead right now, I've been doing just some art, working on some art prints. And I've actually taken the time to kind of get back to this artwork, not music related. So trying to do some painting and stuff that I haven't really had time to explore before. So hopefully more kind of larger scale gallery stuff and personal screen print work and art prints and fun stuff like that. So yeah, that's that is one of the beauties of the whole thing.
We've got 5 seconds, so go visit Matt's store. Matt, thank you